The strategy deployment and the competition. So again, work with me on this. We've got the 7 strategies that I've talked about, very high level on the left-hand side. We've talked about the competition now. And I just want to illustrate a point. So again, I appreciate your patience through this process. So if your site is here, okay, and let's say that you have 100 pages of content that's published, and for argument's sake, your competitor is here, and they only have 90 pages. Now, assuming that the content is the same structure, the same quality of keyword density, that it's written professionally, and you're both going after the same keyword. If your site has 100 pages, and let's say I'm your competitor, and I have 90 pages, who do you think is going to be higher on page 1 of Google? I'm going to vote for the 100 pages. Okay? It's okay. Don't worry about it. I mean, this is the reality. It's all about content, right? So if we're both writing good stuff, we're using keyword density in our language, and even if we don't have a website attached to it, it's just pure content from here all the way down to, or from where I am in Vancouver all the way down to Dallas, Texas, you can still have page 1 positioning, even on Google and Yahoo and MSN today. That's one strategy, and it's still being deployed. Now, let's say that, for argument's sake, I'm your competitor, and now I've gone and matched that. Where it says 90, imagine that says 100 pages. So we actually have the same amount of pages, okay, and the same quality of writing that's attached to it. We're going to go back and forth, right? It's going to be a very tight competitive race on the content field if I'm looking for a particular keyword. Now, try to imagine one particular keyword for your business that you want to come up on page 1 with, okay, and relate this diagram to that. So maybe I add an extra page, then you add an extra page, then you can see that we go back and forth, and then at some point someone realizes, well, we can actually wrap navigation and architecture on this and get more value from Google, and actually that gives our readers and our traffic a much better user experience. Okay, so you go ahead and do that. Who's number 1? You are. Now I copy it. Not just copy and paste, because that's a bad thing to do. You don't want to do that. It actually hurts you in the rankings. But deploy the same strategy that your competition has. Okay, so now let's say, okay, you've gone to SES and you've learned that if you put a blog on your website, that you get more rankings, right? You get more points basically from the search gods, and that you'll, not only is it more content on your website, but you're going to move up in positioning. So you go ahead and you put a blog on your website. Okay? Now you're higher than me again. Now I copy it. Okay? Now you've learned about the inbound link structure. You go ahead and put that on. And you spend a lot of labor and energy going out and finding all these other websites with similar content or complementary content that you can link, ask them to link to your website, and they do it. And you move up in the ranking. Now I copy it. Okay? So then database and so on. I think everybody here is getting that this is a very competitive arena as it relates to implementing the tactics and the strategies that we're talking about today. And it does require concentrated efforts and energies always nonstop to continue to stay ahead of the Joneses, if you will, on page 1. And we haven't even talked about new technology like Facebook strategies or other things that we could spend time on that add value to your positioning on page 1. Now, if we were all multi-million-dollar firms or multi-billion-dollar companies, we would all have what's known as a internet marketing budget, right? Those are wonderful words to hear from SEO companies that are in the business of selling these services, because it seems to be, up until now in the last 12 years, it's always been hard to convince people they actually need to spend money on this. And I'm not saying spend it with us here today. I'm saying that the reality is, if you allocate resources, people, and capital budgets to internet marketing, you get better results than those that don't. It's not rocket science. Print ads don't just show up in the paper because the editor's going to be nice to you that day. Although that is nice when that happens. So assume that we all have successful companies. So stay with me on this for a second. We all have successful marketing budgets that are responsible, that we can allocate to this portion of our business. And let's say that we know that these are the top 7 strategies. What do? Well, what I can tell you that we do is we sit down, and our marketing team, they allocate a percentage of the budget to deploy every single strategy. Why? Because we know it works. In fact, we demonstrate it frequently every day. So that's what the bigger firms do. That's what the bigger companies, and likely, just with a show of hands for the in-house SEO teams, this is likely what you guys are all doing right now, right? Correct? Right? Thank you. And the mid-sized to the smaller biz companies, they're still not there. So you guys are a mile ahead of the rest of the planet. They're still struggling with trying to figure out how to, why would they spend, some of them $2,000 or $5,000 on a website, and some of these guys have a team that's costing them, $10 million a year, and they're only spending it on the website. This is quite a big delta. The point is that you implement as many strategies that you can within that budget, and choose the ones based on your keyword research by looking at your competitors first. It's not hard to find out who your competition is. It's very fast through consultation processes to find out which of these particular strategies they have deployed already, so that you guys can figure out what you need to do rather than overspending, because there's no point in overspending in marketing budgets. That's just a waste of money. We don't want to do. Nobody wants to do that. But what I'm saying is, if you do good research on who you're up against competitively wise, you may only have to deploy 5 or 4 or all 7 of the particular strategies we're talking about today to have success. And I think that's really important when you're trying to determine budgets on what you're going after. Now, of course, with that budget, you don't know what they're already doing. You don't know what they have in their development fields right now. So at the end of the day, implement as many as you can afford, but make sure you have conversion processes, and that at the end of those conversion processes, your average ticket sales are going to handsomely justify any expenses associated with it.